Hi, friends. Amber here with Gathering Ground Wellness. We're at Publix with Dr. Teresa Spano. She is a licensed nutritionist in Florida that holds her doctorate in naturopathic medicine. And we're so excited because we're here.
Hi.
We're here to give you the rundown on ingredients in foods, checking food labels, and yeah.
We're going to make this fun, painless, applicable, and come along with us.
Yay. We're here inside Publix. We're in the protein drink aisle, and we're talking about the ingredients in some regular, like bottled protein drinks. So
These are ones that are pre-formulated. They're ones that you kind of can just grab and go, which seem really convenient, and they can be. However, a lot of them have the same common not so great ingredients, including a lot of different sunflower oil, some different gums and carrageenan, which we know can be inflammatory, especially for the gut. They have a lot of artificial flavoring, which I know you could talk more on, a lot of artificial sugar. So these ones in general are not the best. You can stick with whole protein or protein powders, tend to be cleaner sources with a lot less questionable ingredients.
okay, so we're here in the produce section. What do you recommend as far as greens, fruits, vegetables that people get?
So for greens, veggies, fruits, we really want to make sure that we're avoiding ones that are sprayed heavily in pesticides. So the Environmental Working Group every year puts together the updated list for the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Dirty Dozen, those are the ones that have the highest pesticide residue and the ones that you really want to try to buy organic when you can at least. The Clean 15, they don't tend to be as high pesticide residue. So some of the ones for the Dirty Dozen that are really optimal to buy organic, a lot of greens, apples, berries, especially strawberries, pears, peaches, things like that. And then the Clean 15, it's like pineapple, cabbage, kiwi. You don't have to buy those organic.
Okay, we're in the breakfast bar aisle, granola bars, kind of protein bars, and we're going to get Dr. Teresa's insights on what she thinks about these shelf-stable bars.
So I know people tend to love these. They're quick. They're easy to grab. They're not the greatest usually either. Anything that's prepackaged is going to run into its issues. But in general, you do want to look for one that is ideally organic, does not have a lot of added sugar, or ideally very, very minimal sugar to it, a higher protein content to it, and also higher fiber. So that's one that we all usually tend to miss. And a lot of people don't get enough fiber in their diet. So if you can get it through these, that's a good way to sneak some in. But just be careful of all the added ingredients and the artificial sweeteners, because those will do more damage, especially to your gut lining, than good.
All right. Let's talk coffee. What do you think?
Okay, so coffee, I know that K-cups are really popular. If you're catching a theme here, it's all the convenience things that we should really be trying to avoid. So sorry. But with the K-cups, they tend to have higher plastics, microplastics, because thinking about it, you're heating plastic. So if you really want to use those machines, you could just get the little metal or stainless steel pods that you can fill in. And you can get organic coffee. That's going to be your best bet. Whole bean is nice. If it has a lighter roast, it's going to be higher in antioxidants. Ideally looking for, if you're mold sensitive, one that tests for mycotoxins and molds, but most people don't need to go that far. So in general, organic coffee is going to be your best. And if you're going decaf, which I do love decaf too, make sure it is not chemically processed. So you can look up the water decaf processes. So that's what you want to look for.
We're in the cereal aisle, and we're going to talk to Dr. Teresa about what the best options are inside the cereal aisle, along with the not so best options.
Cereal's a tough one. However, you can get some better options. So when you're looking at the ingredients, you want to look for ones that don't have sugar or a lot of highly processed seed oils as the top ingredients. And you want to look for the macro profile to be decent. So a little bit higher in protein, a little bit higher in fiber, and not just full of sugar. So this is a good example. This one in 1 cup has 8 grams of protein, 3 grams of fiber, and 20 grams of carb versus we have another one here full of quote unquote berries. This one has, 2 grams of protein, and the sugar is 15 grams in 1 cup and 31 grams of carbs. So it's a big difference. So you can get better options of cereal.
Okay, we are just around the corner from the yogurt aisle, and we're going to talk about yogurt options.
People love yogurt for good reason, good probiotics in there. So we have a few different options here to talk about. The first, one of my favorites, is just an organic Greek yogurt. So with yogurt, you want to make sure that you are getting ideally Greek if you can tolerate dairy. Greek yogurt has higher protein in it and plain, so it doesn't have anything added in it. After that, if you get just a regular yogurt, you could see the difference. This one has, in one container, there are 19 grams of sugar. So that's a lot of added sugar that you don't need to be having. And there's some also really good options if you cannot tolerate dairy. Like a lot of people can't. It can be inflammatory for some people. So we have two options here, the Siggy's plant-based coconut. This is also has the good probiotics in it. So it has 10 grams of protein in it too. It does have 9 grams of sugar, but if your total sugar burden is not high for the day, that doesn't matter. And then we also have the very popular Coco June one. So this one also has a little bit of fiber, has some protein in it, not as high as the others, but it's still a good option if you can't tolerate dairy, but you still want to get some yogurt.
Let's talk about beans.
Beans are delicious. They're really good for you too. They have protein, they have fiber, and beans are also pretty cheap, which is also really nice. So a lot of people, when we're looking at healthy foods, one of the biggest complaints is the price, which I get it. Prices of everything are going up. However, if you get things like dried beans, they're cheaper. You can get a much higher quantity as well, and they tend to be tolerated a lot better for your digestive system. So some people, they'll get gas bloating if they have beans that are canned, whereas if you get them dried, you can do the overnight soak, you can use a pressure cooker, it breaks it down differently, and it's easier to digest and break down and absorb. So you have more benefits, cheaper, and less belly bloat too.
All right, let's talk about eggs.
I love eggs. They're extremely nutritious. They're really good for us in many different ways. And they're a good way to get some protein, choline, some other nutrients that we might not otherwise be getting. The key is getting the right egg. So we have a couple examples here. Regular eggs, it's better than nothing, better than a lot of processed food that you're getting. However, you can get better options than that. So we have cage free. There's a difference between them. The regular eggs, they are grown in cages. Cage free, they don't have the same cages. However, they don't have a lot of space either, and they're still not eating a great diet. So it's not only what we're eating, but it has to do with what we're eating eats too. So if they're eating grains, if they're in really cramped conditions, they're not going to be as healthy of an option for us. So next we have the free range eggs. So these are better than the cage free. We keep kind of going up a tier. However, these also, this doesn't really mean that much because they can be just outside for little amounts of times or a little amount of space, and they're still more limited with what their diets are. The better option would be the pasture raised. So these ones are actually outside. They're hunting and pecking at what they're supposed to be hunting and pecking at. As if you've ever seen chickens and what they eat, they're doing what they're supposed to be. So they have a lot more space. They have a healthier nutritional profile. The omega profile is better. The choline, all of it is going to be an improved profile. And especially too, even best if you can get them organic. So organic pasture raised is what you're trying to look for when it comes to eggs. If you can go to a local farm too, that's even better.
All right, we're in front of the milk aisle and we're going to talk about milk options.
So milk, there's a ton of options. You can see the aisle is full. So for this, one of my favorites is going to be an organic dairy. If you can tolerate dairy, of course, for some people, dairy is pretty inflammatory and it's going to cause them to have a lot more symptoms, especially with autoimmune diseases or IBS, a lot of mucus production, anything like that. But if you can get organic grass-fed, that's going to be a really good option for you. For some people who can't tolerate the same casein protein, you could do the A2 milk. So that's a better protein for some people where they can tolerate that more. And then if you are going to be more plant-based and you don't tolerate milk wall, which again, that's a lot of people, if only they would admit it to themselves, but a good option is the Califia Farms. And you're looking for minimal ingredients in these. A lot of the non-dairy milks contain a ton of different ingredients, different gums, emulsifiers, or even added sugars that aren't good for you. Whereas this one only has 3 ingredients. So these are the types of things that you're looking for. Organic, you can do the A2 and the ones that are non-additives. Those are your best options.
Okay, let's talk about cottage cheese.
Okay, so cottage cheese is very popular. It's having a moment. It's great. It has a really good protein profile to it. But this is another one where you want to be careful with what you're buying and which ones you're buying. So it's really common for cottage cheese to have a lot of added gums and additives to them. So for example, this one has guar gum, it has carrageenan, locust bean gum. So a lot of these can cause gut irritation, changes to the microbiome, even at a minimum, just give gas, bloating, and give you symptoms that you just don't need to be having. So a much better option would be something like the Good Culture one, where it is organic and it doesn't have all those additives to it. So the only ingredients on there are dairy and organic cream, sea salt, and the bacteria, the good bacteria. So this is a much better option when you are getting cottage cheese. Make sure you're not causing more problems when you're trying to get that protein in.
Let's talk about meat.
Okay, so meat is fantastic. The nutritional profile is amazing. The biggest thing with meat is you really want to try to get whole, unprocessed meat. So this means that you're not getting deli meats, mostly and largely. You're not getting prepackaged like sausages. You can get a few healthier versions of those, but in general, you want to look for whole meat. It's also going to have a much higher bang for your buck when it comes to protein. So if you're looking to up your protein, animal sources are the easiest way to do that. Definitely trying to get organic when you can. If you can't get organic, get the ones that have the least amount of hormones added to them, the least amount of additives. Bone broth is a good addition too. Just in 1 cup, there's 11 grams of protein here. And this is organic. They use organic beef as well as organic carrots. So again, make sure you're getting organic when you can, at least getting no antibiotics added, getting 100% grass fed, grass finished is even more ideal. Those are all better ways that you can get really good, healthy meat products.
Let's talk about seafood.
Okay, so for seafood, another great opportunity to get a good amount of protein and good omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory. So with this, you want to make sure that you're getting wild caught. Some farm raised are not as bad, but the problem is you don't know which ones are practicing those really healthier farm practices. So wild caught is better, and sticking to the smaller fish. So the smaller fish are going to have less toxins in them, especially heavy metals, even microplastics. Avoiding shellfish too. Unfortunately, they tend to be higher in microplastics. So those are good ways that you can modify it, make sure you're still getting healthier versions of the food. And frozen is okay. It does not have to be fresh in order to get the best value for your fish.
Let's talk about processed meats.
So in general, processed meats are going to be considered not as healthy for us. Again, they do increase your risk for colorectal cancers. However, you can get some versions that aren't as bad. So there are much better ways that you can incorporate them still, feel like you're not missing out, and actually still enjoying foods that you really like. So these are 2 examples. We have the Greenfield bacon, and then we have organic beef hot dogs that are just basically meat and some spices. No other additives, no nitrates or nitrates added. So it's a much healthier version for you. But I have to say, make sure when you're cooking it, you don't blacken it. So that turns into carcinogenic properties in any kind of meat, but it's more susceptible usually for these types of meats. So make sure you're cooking it not at high heat and don't get that black turd look, even though I know people love it. Avoid that.
Let's talk about plant-based diets.
Yes, vegans, vegetarians, we did not forget about you. So plant-based diets are fantastic. I really love plants as a staple for what people should be eating. It improves your gut microbiome, your diversity, helps with hormone detox. I mean, the benefits go on and on and on. The more plants, the better. So it can be a little bit harder for vegans to find healthier options though, because a lot of the time they are highly processed too, those foods that are prepackaged. So this is an example of one that's a better option. It does have mostly just whole vegetable ingredients in there. There's some quinoa, carrot, parsnip. There's apple cider vinegar. It does use avocado oil. What's nice is it does have 7 grams of protein in one burger. Obviously, it's not the same as if you were to get a regular burger, but that's still 7 grams of protein. We will take it. Only 3 grams of sugar and 4 grams of fiber. So this is actually a decent option for you to incorporate in, bring it to the barbecue, and just so you don't feel like you're missing out too. It's easy, it's quick, it's in the frozen section.
Let's talk about vegan protein.
So one of my favorite forms of protein for vegans is organic tofu. This is one of my favorites too because it's water drained. It's super convenient. You don't have to worry about straining it too. It's easy, quick. You can make it taste kind of like anything just by the way that you flavor it and cook it. The biggest thing with tofu is just getting it organic. It's a good amount of protein in there. And it's a great addition to a nice healthy diet for vegans and vegetarians or anyone really. Anybody can have it. It's good. I promise. You just have to know how to prepare it.
Let's talk about gut health and fermented foods.
So fermented foods are a good way to add in some good bacteria to your diet. There's a lot of different sources for it. But if we're talking about plant-based, again, we have to talk to the vegetarians and vegans just a little bit more. You can get different ones from the grocery section that are already fermented for you and easy to incorporate in. So sauerkraut is a really good way to do this. This comes naturally fermented with those bacteria that you need, some of them at least. Kimchi is another great example. What's really cool about kimchi is there was actually a recent study showing that some of the bacteria found in kimchi actually can reduce some of the microplastics that we're consuming. So we consume them at an extremely large amount. They're difficult to avoid. We obviously want to reduce them. It's something we could talk about more. But kimchi, that bacteria can actually reduce the effect of them and help them be bound. And so they're excreted better from us.
Okay, Teresa, we're back in the car, done shopping. What are your final thoughts?
So there's a lot that we can say about this, right? But we'll try to make it simple. So when we're grocery shopping, I know it can be overwhelming and people think, what can I buy that's actually good and what's not good? But the biggest thing is focus on whole foods, real foods. That's going to be your best bet always. So minimizing processed foods as much as you can. You don't have to be perfect. We're not being unrealistic here. But if you focus on whole, real foods, you're going to usually spend less money and you're going to have a much better nutritional profile too. There's a lot more that we can say about this. So we can talk about different pricing. We could talk about how to pair foods. We could talk about meal prepping. So many different avenues that we could go down. Microplastics, BPA. I mean, the list goes on and on. So if there's anything you guys are really interested in or have questions about or confused about, let us know. Leave it in the comments and we can touch on them in future episodes too.
And if you want to make this a series, let us know because we will totally hit up all the grocery stores and give you the insight.
We'll go to every single one and talk about them.
Bye.
Bye.